unused to the climate, a thing that if man ever found, a place to live easy and happy, that Eden is on Puget Sound. Eden is on Puget Sound, that Eden is on Puget Sound, a place to live easy and happy, that Eden is on Puget Sound.
Hello, you are listening to the Seattle Files. My name is Chris Allen, I'm your host. On each episode of this show, I get together with a different local comedian, and together we discuss the strange, unusual, interesting, and oftentimes lesser-known aspects of our local history. Joining me today on the program is John Wachter. How's it going, John?
Hi, Chris. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice. We've known each other for years, but yes, it was nice to meet you as well. John is a improviser about town. He is on the weekly podcast Improv News 9 at 8. It is a real news podcast with fake reporting. Is that an accurate way of describing that?
That's pretty accurate, yeah.
Awesome. Do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Yes, we take news stories that you might find in any of the papers throughout the world, and then we bring you reporting from them by myself and the lovely Kayla Teal and the lovely Ezra Parter, and we get you a little more in-depth, let you meet the characters that are involved in those stories. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
And they can find that
on any of the platforms where you might find any podcast in the world, including this one. So
cool. So iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud,
Stitcher, yes,
awesome.
All of those ones.
Fantastic. John also performs with the improv groups Rage Baby and Dueling Danjos.
Yeah, you can find those anywhere in town. Well, not anywhere in town, but at any local improv venues.
Those ones you can find at very specific location. Improv News 98 anywhere.
Yes, anywhere. Those very specific. You have to dig a little bit. But,
awesome.
Yeah, check us out on Facebook.
How long have you lived in the Seattle area?
I have lived in the Seattle area since 2013.
Mm-hmm. Okay, pretty recent transplant then.
Yes, absolutely.
What brought you out here?
I moved out here from Nebraska, where I grew up and spent all of my childhood. Mm-hmm. I moved out here. My sister lives out here.
Okay.
And she has two adorable little children, and I am their favorite uncle.
Sweet. Take that, other uncle.
Yeah.
How much do you know about local history?
I know what I've learned from the Seattle Files.
Okay.
I never learned any as a child. If you want to hit me up on the, Great Plains History podcast, when you start that one, I studied that one in school, but...
okay. I think that's on... If you want to start that, I'll be on it, but... Cool. Awesome. So you don't know what we're going to be talking about today, correct?
No.
Awesome. Well, let's get started.
Yeah.
Patrick Haggerty was born September 27th, 1944 in Port Angeles, Washington. He was raised on a dairy farm with 9 brothers and sisters.
Nice.
Do you know where Port Angeles is?
Port Angeles is on the western side of us right now. Is that right?
Yeah, it's out on the peninsula.
Okay.
It's on the kind of northern peninsula.
I knew that. I got a map when I moved here, and I put it on the wall so that I would try to find where local landmarks in the state of Washington were.
And now it's cashing in.
Yeah, finally, I got one. Question 1, right.
Question 1, correct.
That's one for John.
We're going to do this in quiz form here. So. At a young age, he realized he was gay, and rural farm life in the 1950s wasn't the most welcoming environment for such a realization, as you would imagine. Yeah. He kept this to himself as best he could, but a conversation with his father in his sophomore year of high school would have a huge impact on him.
Okay.
In his own words, quote, "I'm riding to school with my oldest brother, and on the way to school, I'm putting glitter all over my face. And my brother said, 'What in the hell are you doing?' And I say, 'I'm putting on my costume.'" So he was running for some kind of a, pep or cheer kind of position at school for an assembly.
Good for him.
And he said, quote, "Well, I wouldn't be caught dead wearing that." So he dropped me off at school, and he called up my dad. And he said, "Dad, I think you better get up there. This is not going to look good." So,
I'm sure it looked great.
I'm sure he looked fantastic. But from his brother's perspective,
no,
not so much.
Not so much. That's why the brother never made the cheer team.
No,
spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Yeah, no. I would imagine that the brother did not make the cheer team. So my dad drove up to the high school, and he had his farmer jeans on, and they had cow crap on him, and he had his clodhopper boots on, and when I saw him coming, I ducked around the hall and hid from him.
Yes.
And it wasn't because of what I was wearing, it was because of what he was wearing. So the assembly goes well, and I climb in the car, and I'm riding home with my father. And my father says to me, quote, "I was walking down the hall this morning, and I saw a kid that looked a lot like you ducking around the hall to avoid his dad. But I know it wasn't you, because you would never do that to your dad."
Well, yeah, good disguise
Yeah,
then.
guilt trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, good disguise. And I squirmed in my seat, and I finally busted out, and I said, "Well, Dad, did you have to wear your cow crap jeans to my assembly?" And he said, "Look, everybody knows I'm a dairy farmer. This is who I am." And he looked me square in the eye, and he said, "Now, how about you? When you're a full-grown man, who are you going to go out with at night?" And I said, "I don't know." And he said, "I think you do know. And it's not going to be that McLaughlin girl that's been making goo-goo eyes at you, but you won't even pick up the damn telephone. And I'm going to tell you something today that you might not know what to think about it now, but you're going to remember when you're an adult. Don't sneak. Because if you sneak like you did today, it means you think you're doing something wrong. And if you run around your whole life thinking you're doing the wrong thing, then you'll ruin your immortal soul." And
So the dad was not such a dick as we may...
No.
As we may jump into the story thinking, right?
The dad was not a dick at all.
Okay, yeah.
The dad was actually very compassionate and understanding.
Yeah, well, he was just hiding with his cow crap jeans and he was doing his best to make his son feel comfortable. Mm-hmm. So, okay.
Yeah, and of all the things a father in 1959 could have told his gay son, my father tells me to be proud of myself and not sneak.
Nice.
Which is a really wonderful thing to say.
Right.
And a really, it defies the character that we would think.
Right, that was not where I thought this was going to go.
Right,
when
yeah.
the story started. Mm-hmm. Already, a swift turnaround.
A twist and a turn. This always stuck with him, with Patrick Haggerty, and he would later refer to his father as, quote, "the patron saints of dad for sissies."
Oh.
Yeah, which is a sweet thing to say.
Yeah.
And a thing that only he could say.
Right. I don't think you can put that on Twitter now.
Well, yeah.
Well, you can, I suppose.
Haggerty went to the University of Washington and got a degree in drama. And after college, Haggerty joined the Peace Corps, and he was later discharged from the Peace Corps in 1966 for being gay. Kicked out of the Peace Corps for being gay.
Is that illegal in the Peace Corps?
I guess it was. I guess it was frowned upon.
No, don't ask, don't tell in the Peace Corps. That's not a thing.
No, not back then.
Okay.
At least not in 1966.
Right.
After his discharge from the Peace Corps, he was hospitalized from a mental institution for a time. From there, Haggerty moved to Seattle, Washington to pursue a graduate studies degree from the University of Washington. While in Seattle, Haggerty became an artist and an activist with the local chapter of the Gay Liberation Front. And,
was that a thing in Seattle? Like, it was okay, I mean, I know a lot of people moved to, like, San Francisco and the West Coast in that, sort of beat poet Jack Kerouac time. It was a very freewheeling kind of space for that kind of thing, as opposed to...
It certainly would have been more accepting than rural farms and things like that.
Than the cow farm.
Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily an ideal utopia where, but there's definitely more acceptance. And
there was a community.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
If you want to learn more about that, there's a whole episode about gay and lesbian history in Seattle. You can check that out. One of the first gay rights activist organizations actually began here. Now I'm spacing on the name of it. It was named after the Dorian Society. That's what it was. The Dorian Society.
And as you said, if you want to learn more about gay and lesbian history in the Seattle area, please check the Seattle File Archives.
Yes, exactly. The Gay Liberation Front, which he was a part of, was an organization that advocated for sexual liberation for all people. They believed heterosexuality was a remnant of cultural inhibition and felt that change would not come about unless the current social institutions were dismantled and rebuilt without defined sexual roles. So,
yeah.
Pretty radical.
Yeah, especially for that time.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. In 1972, Haggerty joined with fellow gay rights activists and formed the band Lavender Country.
Good name.
Yeah, real good name.
Yeah.
The band members were lead singer and guitarist Patrick Haggerty, keyboardist Michael Carr, vocalist and fiddle player Eve Morris, and lead guitarist Robert Hammerstrom. And he was straight. He was the only straight member of the band.
And they had a fiddle.
They had a fiddle. They were a country band.
Nice.
Yeah. They were a gay country and western band.
Cow people country band.
Yeah, cow people band. Lavender Country released their first album, self-titled Lavender Country, in 1973. And this marked the first openly gay country album ever.
Wow.
Yeah. The album was a 2-sided vinyl and consisted of 10 songs. Come Out Singin', Gypsy John, Waltz and Will Trilogy, Georgia Pie, Crying These Cocksuckin' Tears, Back in the Closet Again, I Can't Shake the Stranger Out of You, To a Woman, Straight White Patterns, and Lavender Country.
So basically the subtitle innuendos.
Not even really innuendo. It's very overt, very open.
Single entendre.
Yes. It's very out. Let's take a listen.
Yes, please.
Waking up to say hip hip hooray, I'm glad I'm gay. Can't repress my happiness ever since I tried your way. Gonna lay right here and greet the sun, 'cause gay time nothing's just begun. So come on, let's tumble in the hay. Do-do-do, do-do-do, oh do-do-do. Morning time feels so fine when I'm hanging out with you. Sun is up.
And that was the first track from the self-titled album Lavender Country, Come Out Singin'.
Got my rooster rising.
Got my
yeah. Tickling beard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is 1973 that this came out.
Was this a big hit?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, it was very underground.
Okay.
Very, very underground. Because, I mean, it's still illegal to be gay.
Right.
In the state of Washington, the consensual sodomy laws were repealed until 1975. So it is still illegal to be gay and to be out, and it could ruin your life, ruin your career. And they come out and they make this very, very overt, very open album.
So if you're making, Lavender, and you gotta, there's no internet, obviously.
Right, yeah.
So you gotta print these albums and
Yes.
then put them,
Yeah.
like, somebody has to make those for you, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the album was funded and released by the Gay Community Social Services of Seattle, with funding and production assistance from activist Fagel Ben Biriman, or Biriam. I don't know how to pronounce this name.
It's Berryman.
It's Berryman. It's not. He was a New York-born LGBT activist and gay marriage pioneer who filed one of the first gay marriage lawsuits in history. 1,000 copies of the album were made at its original release. To sell the album, the band and funders would run ads in the underground gay press. And anyone who wanted the album could send $3 to P.O. Box 2228, Seattle, Washington, 98122. And in return, they would receive the vinyl album.
We should send a letter to that
to that
box and just see what we get.
See if anything.
Now. Yeah.
Send $3 to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money in 1966, right?
1973.
Or 73, but still.
Still, yeah.
That's an expensive album.
It's an album, yeah. Yeah, so we'll send it now.
Self-adjust stamped envelope. You can get it back.
Yeah.
You know?
P.O. Box 2228, Seattle, Washington, 98122.
Yeah, just like you get to get a letter from the Bozo Show or something. You
Oh,
know?
yeah.
Remember?
Vaguely. Vaguely. They were able to sell all 1,000 copies of the album over a period of a couple of years doing this. The precaution of selling the album underground was done for many reasons, and each member of the band knew they could be sacrificing their life both figuratively and literally. You could lose your job, you could lose your family, you could lose your friends, for being such a figure in the LGBT community. Haggerty stated in an interview that he had, quote, more than one personal friend who was murdered for being gay.
Damn.
So they are on the forefront.
Yeah.
They are, this is an incredibly courageous thing to do.
Super risky.
Yes.
Artistic move. At the moment.
Yeah. But it comes back to what his father said, is don't sneak around.
Yeah.
Be proud of who you are. And that's exactly what he's doing. One thing that also strikes me is that this album is really good.
I like that song.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, I kind of want to hear the rest of it.
Yeah, we'll listen to it a little bit more shortly.
Right.
But yeah,
Let's listen to it right now, Chris. Let's just stop for an hour and listen to the whole thing.
Yeah, it's very, very well made. The songs are very well written. The musicianship is exceptional. It's just a great album. But it could never have any kind of mainstream success because in 1973, you can't have an openly gay album and have it just be out.
Right, nobody's going to distribute that for you or
Right,
something.
yeah. Mm-hmm. In 1973, Shan Audie, a DJ for Seattle radio station KRAB, which has since become 107.7 The End, the precursor of what is now The End, played the band's song Cryin' These Cocksuckin' Tears on the air, resulting in an obscenity fine from the Federal Communications Commission and Audie's dismissal from the station.
You know, looking at those titles, I think he could have picked one of the other tracks.
One of the other ones?
Yeah. But pick that, but I guess if you're just going to go in, you go in
Go for
hard
it.
and all out. You put the
also
Crying These Cocksucking Tears on the radio.
It's also a great song.
Yeah.
And it's currently become the best known song off the album. Let's listen to it now.
Okay. See, I don't think you could even play Crying These Cocksucking Tears on the radio right now.
You don't think so?
With cocksucking in it?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
I mean, I don't know what the rules really are, but...
It's hard to tell, because I when I'm in the car, I typically don't... I just scan through stations, and, I mean, granted, I'm a grumpy old man, and I'm like, this is vulgar, I don't think this is
I mean, are there
appropriate.
like rap songs now that use that word
they're way
on the
more
radio?
vulgar.
Yeah.
Like the till the sweat drip off my balls, and that
Right.
kind of...
But that's, I think that was... Actually, cocksucker is one of the George Carlin 7 words you can't say on television.
Yeah.
I think so.
But that doesn't say anything about the radio. I don't know. In any event, the DJ for KRAB got fired, and they got an FCC fine for playing this song.
Yes.
I'm fighting for when there won't be no straight men, 'cause you all have a common disease. Can't give very much for loving and such, but you take it wherever you please. Don't wrap the story, tell me the glorious Galahad Gallop is near. But your lies can't deceive me, you know that you'll leave me crying these cocksucking tears. But now you have guessed that I'm not too impressed with your talents as an engineer.
And that was the song Cryin' These Cocksuckin' Tears from the album Lavender Country.
And now, weather and traffic with Chris.
Yeah. You said that you heard that song before.
I did.
Back in the day.
Sadly, and I don't want to talk a lot of shit on my former homeland, but just when I grew up in Nebraska in a different time, and young middle school kids say some things that probably aren't as PC as they should have, and probably not as enlightened even 20 years ago as we are today. I remember somebody finding that song, playing it, and it was kind of a ha ha ha.
Yeah.
But we're all a bunch of jerks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we grow out of it.
We grow out of
right?
it. Ideally.
Yeah.
Ideally,
Look,
yeah.
I got out of there. I moved to Seattle. It's, finally we've moved past these sort of things. We've got a new president in the White House.
Oh,
things
God.
are on their way up, right?
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
You can cut all that out.
Yeah. In 1974, Lavender Country performed at the first ever Seattle Pride event. And they continued to perform at a number of LGBT events across the west coast of the United States.
Okay.
And this is before Q was added to the end of that, so which is why I'm saying it like that. Because of their affiliation with the LGBT community and most of the band members themselves being gay, they were not considered for gigs outside of LGBT events. So because they were out and because they were very vocal, they couldn't just play a regular show down at,
They couldn't just be in a festival with other bands and stuff that were not LGBTQ.
Right, exactly. Or not, at least not out and open about it. Later in an interview, when asked about this, Haggerty said, quote, "I made Lavender Country and it defined me forever. There was no way to escape it, and what this means for years to come was the doors were shut and I was denied access to Nashville. I am as country as it comes, and if you challenge my credentials on my countryness, you will do so at your peril."
Man. See, especially like in I wonder if he would have been more accepted even in like the sort of, like at that time, the West Coast, rock and roll kind of world.
Yeah, I don't know.
A little bit more than like trying to go to Nashville,
Yeah.
Go record in Los Angeles or something. But I suppose even being there and being that out about it was...
Yeah.
They're looking to sell records. They're not looking to make statements, I guess.
Right, yeah. And even if they do it probably in a more clandestine way,
right,
as opposed to just being out and overt and kind of,
yeah,
pushing that agenda.
I think most people didn't think Freddie Mercury was gay until, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Later on, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he never was open about it when he was actually singing and performing.
I don't know.
I mean, I think that was a thing. I think because there was a lot of,
he was a confirmed bachelor or
right,
whatever, but people weren't.
A lot of football dudes that were like, love that band.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Even though it was called Queen.
Right.
Which you'd think would...
Yeah, they didn't think it through.
That's true, yeah. 1976, Lavender Country disbanded. According to Haggerty, the reason was because Lavender Country ran out of albums to sell.
Well, they had 1,000.
They had 1,000, and they sold all 1,000 over the period of 3 years. So, After the band's disbanding, lead singer Haggerty ran 2 unsuccessful campaigns for political office, one for a seat on the Seattle City Council, and a second as an independent candidate for a seat in the Washington House of Representatives. Both times he ran on the platform of being a socialist gay rights activist.
Oh, good for him.
Yeah, in his run for House of Representatives, he received 18% of the vote. Which is a lot for a socialist gay rights activist in the 1970s.
No, that's not bad at all.
No, yeah.
That gives a good name to Seattle voters.
Yes, yeah, that's some hustle right there. After these attempts, Haggerty continued to be a gay rights activist and an anti-racism activist. Haggerty said in an interview that during this whole time, between about 1970 and 1978, he could not find work and was jobless because, quote, no employer would hire a man whose mouth was so big about the issue of gay rights.
They got to go back on tour.
Yeah, yeah.
Get back out, bring the band back together.
Yeah, yeah. Play some gigs, make a few bucks.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got to keep pushing if you want to make that big money.
Yeah. Well, addressing the issue of conservative ideology that permeates much of country music, he said, quote, "I'd love to be popular, fabulous, rich, famous country music singer, but to do that to get there, no, Mary, I don't think so. I'll pass." So saying, no, I'm not gonna be quiet about being gay. I'm not gonna be quiet about what I believe. I am going to be out proud, and I'm going to be speaking my mind. And if that means I'm not gonna be successful, fine.
Just like Papa said.
Yeah.
Right. Papa tried.
Mm-hmm. Don't sneak. Don't sneak. December 1999, Lavender Country's 1973 self-titled album was re-released on CD. As a result, this re-sparked interest in the band. In 2000, the Journal of Country Music published an article on gay country musicians, focusing in large part on Haggerty and Lavender Country. In 2000, the band released a 5-song EP, Lavender Country Revisited, which featured 3 recordings of the songs from the original album, Come Out Singin', Lavender Country, and I Can't Shake the Stranger Out of You, and 2 new songs, Gay Bar Blues and Clara Frazier versus Seattle City Light.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so this interest had started to kind of regain and remount.
So they didn't just have that, the one release, those 1,000.
Yeah. Well,
collector's item.
Yeah,
if you could
really,
get your hands on that.
I bet now that is a huge collector's item. If anybody has a copy of that,
original version, we'll take that call.
Yeah, well, we'll see if that $3 that we send, that PO box, comes back with anything.
We might be set, Chris. This could really change things for you.
Yeah. So get me out of this slum and into the money bank.
Right.
The band reunited briefly in 2000, performing the album in its entirety at Seattle's Broadway Performance Hall in January and at that year's Seattle Pride.
Awesome.
Yeah. So they're back and they're playing shows. In 2000, Lavender Country was archived at the Country Music Hall of Fame in Nashville, Tennessee. But they did make it to Nashville.
I didn't, that's not where I thought this was going to end. I was
Oh,
like,
really?
Well, I just didn't know if they would. This is like a triumphant story.
Kind of, yeah. Well,
so far.
Well,
I don't want to jump to any conclusions. It took him a long time.
Yeah, it did.
And he didn't get elected to any of those offices.
He did not, no.
It's like Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
He had to fail 10,000.
Or a good space guy.
Right. Like, what's his name? McDowell. You gotta fail 10,000 times before you can finally release your openly homosexual country album.
Did you read that book, or are you paraphrasing?
I might be paraphrasing a little bit.
Extrapolating from incomplete evidence.
I just remember him. He's got that weird hair, and it's 10,000 hours. That's right.
That's
So 10,000 hours of playing your homosexual country music album, and you'll make it.
Yeah, that's guaranteed success.
Guaranteed.
Well, it's struggle for years, and they don't really have mainstream success. Mm-hmm. Most people have not heard of Lavender Country, because, like you said, he's playing in a musical form that's predominantly overwhelmed by conservative ideology, and being very out and proud doesn't jive with the predominant ideology of that musical form.
For sure.
Yeah, so it's an interesting contrast, and makes it very difficult for him. But they're starting to get some recognition, a little bit of acknowledgement.
And thank goodness they broke down that barrier. Now there are so many openly homosexual country music artists performing today.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with country music, so I'm going to assume that you're correct.
Like I said, Chris, things are going great in this
According to
country.
Malcolm Gladwell, there's 10,000 of them.
Right?
Yeah. In September 10th, 2010, somebody put Lavender Country's Crying These Cocksucking Tears on YouTube, and it started making the rounds. The song was also included in the 2012 compilation album Strong Love, Songs of Gay Liberation, 1972 to 1981. 40 years after the original release of their self-titled album Lavender Country, independent record label Paradise of Bachelors and record collector Jeremy Cargill sought out and found Haggerty living in Bremerton, Washington. So he's still in the Northwest, living in Bremerton.
Stayed here his whole life.
Yeah.
Probably still kept in contact with the family. Where was that farm again?
Port Angeles.
Okay.
His father died 2 years after that conversation. His father kind of knew he was...
But he had like nine brothers and sisters, right?
Yeah,
So
I don't know what happened with that. I'm not sure.
I hope that they all kept in contact.
Yeah.
And Mom stayed on the cattle farm.
Mm-hmm.
And they sat out on the porch and
Yeah.
played.
And eat pie and drink lemonade.
And play cocksucking blues.
Cocksucking tear, crying these cocksucking tears.
Yeah.
Yeah, family sing-along. That's a beautiful thought.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Together, they were able to re-release the self-titled 1973 Lavender Country album in 2014. The reissue vinyl came with a 32-page chapbook of photos, lyrics, and an oral history. Brendan Greaves of Paradise of Bachelors said the first song he heard on the Lavender Country album was Crying These Cocksucking Tears.
That was the single.
That was pretty much the single, yeah. Greaves said it in the interview, quote, "It was evident 30 seconds in there was something more going on here. It wasn't a hack song." And yeah, it's the album's really good. The musicianship is great. The songs are really well written.
And it's really well produced, actually. Like, for something that, at that time, it's not like you could do it at your house with,
GarageBand and your computer. And,
right.
Yeah.
You had to actually go to a studio and pay somebody to record that and mix it for you and make it sound good, put it on an album. That wasn't cheap, I think, at the time, right?
No, they had to sell 1,000 copies to
pay for it. I know a lot about the early 70s recording studio.
Yeah.
I don't.
You need to spend 10,000 hours in the
10,000 hours in the
studio.
recording studio before you can make 1,000 albums.
Jason Green, former senior editor at Pitchfork, first encountered Lavender Country on YouTube when he clicked on a link for Crying These Cocksucking Tears, saying, quote, "How do you not listen to that?"
It's a toe tapper.
See that? You say, "Ooh, yeah, I'm gonna click on that." He went on to say the album was full of, quote, "extraordinary gay anthems. The lyrics on Lavender Country are funny, furious, explicit, and touching. The album's impetus may have been political, but its content is deeply personal. Gay themes aside, Lavender Country is in many ways a classic country record, with its keening harmonies, rolling piano, and cracked heart."
It is. It's very the vocals, which is Paul, very
Or Patrick.
Patrick, sorry,
Patrick Haggerty.
Patrick, Paul, John, and
Ringo.
Ringo, yeah.
Lavender Country.
Right.
Yeah.
No, they're very heartfelt. I really do like that song.
Yeah. Green's words made it into the re-released vinyl's acknowledgement section. Green was joined by 18 other writers from music news sources who also raved about the album. And the band played several reunion shows in 2014 to show their support on the reissue.
So that's not that long. That's only 2 years ago.
No.
They're still hanging around.
Still hanging around. In 2016, director Dan Taberski directed a short documentary film called These Cocksuckin' Tears, which stars Haggerty and tells the story of his life and career. Today, you can find Lavender Country's music on iTunes, Amazon, Spotify, and many other mainstream music providers.
Which is where we found it.
That's how I found it on iTunes.
Yes.
iTunes, yeah. Haggerty, now 72, is alive and well, living in Bremerton, Washington, still involved as an activist for LGBTQ rights, and still occasionally performs live.
Awesome.
Yeah, so he's still around.
So how old would he be now?
He is 72 years old.
Perfect. That's exactly the time that his story should be told, as the album was released in 1972.
Oh, hey. Well,
Hey?
73.
It
was recorded in 72.
You know, we can change that up for the biopic.
Okay.
So it makes
Sounds good.
it hits it off a little bit better.
Fudge the
72,
details.
72, right?
Well, it kind of also raises the question, because the album it's very good, but even in this day and age, would a mainstream straight audience embrace an album about overt gay themes? And I don't know. I'm not sure about that.
I think my guess is that it would still be kind of tough in the world of country music now.
Yeah.
And it's actually funny because I think that like country music was more on the cutting edge back then than it even is now. You know? Mm-hmm. Some people like, Johnny Cash and Merle Haggard and those people were a little bit like further on the social issues forefront. I don't know if they would have gone as far as homosexual rights in that time, but they're definitely on the side of, of poverty and race struggle. And class struggle, that kind of thing, and had more of a voice in sort of progressive issues. Now it's just all about like beer and pickup trucks.
Yeah.
And
mainstream conservative ideology.
Right.
And I'm not sure. I agree with that sentiment. But I don't know if even a more pop or more rock album, if they were overtly singing about being gay, if that would be embraced by a mainstream audience. And I like to think it would, but this album is very out. It's very open, and it's a great album. But it's a question that I have that I don't have an answer to.
Well, let's find an answer, Chris. I think that people do like to listen to songs about which they can necessarily relate to.
Right.
So, it definitely would play with an audience of people that can relate to that. Those struggles in that life. But at the same time, people of all stripes listen to albums about like the struggle of a lot of people listen to NWA and have not grown up in
that's true.
South Central Los Angeles and
that's true.
That type of issue. So the ideas of being pushed aside or feeling belittled as a person or because of who you are or standing up for yourself or even just being in love with no matter who you're in love with. Those songs are really good.
Yeah.
I as a heterosexual man, I thought that Brokeback Mountain is beautiful, and I cry every time I frickin' watch it.
Great movie.
Great
movie. Yeah. Yeah. I think there's also, amongst a lot of straight people, especially straight men, there's the fear though of if I like this, what does that say about me? Oh my God, what? No, get it away. Kind of. Yeah.
And that's what all the ass hats that I was hearing it from in high school were saying.
Ass hats!
That's ass hats!
Well, thank you for listening to the Seattle Files. Thank you so much, John, for being here.
Thank you for having me, Chris. That was really interesting. And I am going to go home and actually purchase that album.
Awesome. Yeah, it's available iTunes, Stitcher, or iTunes, Amazon, wherever you can download albums.
Wherever music is sold. And
send $3
to P.O. Box. And actually pay for it, guys, because, music doesn't pay for itself.
It doesn't. Mm-hmm.
Right?
Well, be sure to like us on Facebook, subscribe and rate in iTunes. If you have a topic suggestion that you would like to hear an episode about, shoot me an email at theseattlefiles@gmail.com. Huge thanks to my research assistant, Jake Laycock, for putting a lot of this information together. If you're able to contribute on Patreon, it's patreon.com/theseattlefiles. If you can't, no worries. I really want to make sure that we can keep this a free podcast. So thank you for listening. We'll be back next Tuesday with a new topic and a new guest. We're going to leave you today with the song Lavender Country from the album and band of the same name.
There's nothing left but holes in your weary sexist roles. Trade them old PJs for goodwill negligee. Y'all come out, my dears, to Lavender Country. Y'all come out and make yourselves to home. It don't matter here who you love or what you wear, 'cause we don't